Hello and welcome back to the Virtual Monk YouTube channel. My name is Neil McLaughlin, aka Virtual Monk. On this channel I bring you the latest news about Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Intune, Entra ID, Azure, VDI, DAS and much more. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do so, as it really helps me grow the channel, and also you'll get notifications of any new videos that I upload. In today's video, we're going to go through deploying FSLogix from beginning to end. Okay, so we're going to create a storage account, we're going to deploy the agent, we're going to apply the configuration, and we're going to show you how to do this via Nerdio as well, right? So Nerdio provides the whole end-to-end capability to do this within a few clicks, and that's what I'm going to go through and show you today. So get ready, let's get buckled up, and let's get going. So for the storage account configuration, we're actually going to join it to Entra ID, right? So this is becoming more and more popular, and there's a lot of more people move towards Entra ID. So traditionally, a lot of people use Active Directory Domain Services for their FSLogix profiles configuration, and that would involve joining that storage account to the Active Directory Domain Services domain, right? So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking forward into the future, right? So in the future, we'd see a lot of AVD Session Hosts, which are sort of Entra ID Joined. So we need to make sure that the storage account is also Entra ID Joined, right? Because you can't mix and match. So if I have my session host connected to the Active Directory Domain Services, I also need to have my storage account connected to Active Directory Domain Services, right? So a majority of customers are moving from Active Directory Domain Services onto Entra ID. So for this configuration, that's what we're going to do, right? So we're going to have our AVD session host connected to Entra ID, and we're also going to have the storage account connected to Entra ID as well. So, and as we go through the configuration, we'll explain what's happening and some gotchas and stuff to look out for as well. Okay, so let's get going. The first step that we need to do is actually create the storage account, right? So this is what's actually going to hold all the FSLogix profiles. So let's look at the prerequisites and the Microsoft documentation, and then we'll walk you through that process of how to create it using Nerdio. Okay, so this is the Microsoft documentation. I'll put the links in the description. So what we essentially have to do, so the first thing you have to do is basically create a storage account. Right, so once you create a storage account, you then need to create the file share, and then you need to enable the Microsoft Entra Kerberos authentication. Okay, so this will allow us to basically authenticate to the storage account and the file share from the Azure Virtual Desktop session hosts. Okay, so this is really important. We'll get into the configure session host a bit later on, but if you want to go into a bit more detail around what's actually happening here, this is documentation as well, which shows you how to enable the Kerberos authentication for the hybrid identities, which is what we're doing here. Okay, so a few prereqs that we've got here, where we need to be at least Windows 11 or Enterprise or Pro or single or multi-session. Okay, if you're using Windows 10, we have to be at least version 2004, which I really hope you are, because that'll be out of support at the moment. And then we need to go through some other steps as well. Now, all these steps that I'm showing in the moment, these are actually going to be automated using Nerdio. Right, so we won't actually be doing these because we'll be doing all the configuration automatically. Okay, so the also thing that we will do as well is the grant admin consent. So once we've created that storage account and joined it to Entra ID, we need to provide admin consent to allow the authentication. Okay. And another key thing that you have to do as well is, if you do have like conditional access configured within your environment, we need to ensure that we're going to disable multi-factor authentication on the storage account. This is really important, okay, because if you don't do this, it's not going to work, right? Because every time the host tries to access a storage account, it'll be blocked because it's going to require MFA authentication essentially. We need to assign share level permissions and also directory and file level permissions. So again, Nerdio is going to be doing all that configuration for us, but you can see here the steps that you need to go through that, enable that if you want to, and then also you need to configure the clients to retrieve the Kerberos tickets as well. Again, we're going to let Nerdio take care of all that configuration for us, but you can also do that via group policy or configuring the permissions on the session hosts when you deploy them. Okay, so as you can see, quite a few steps to do here. And this is why we've sort of enabled that configuration within Nerdio to try and make the process as easy and as seamless as possible as well. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's now go over to the Nerdio console and let's have a look and see what we need to do to create the storage account. Another key thing which I realized just haven't mentioned is at this moment in time, all the accounts need to originate from an Active Directory domain, right? So they need to be synced accounts essentially. That limitation is going to be lifted in the future. There are a few workarounds that you can do if you want to use cloud-only accounts, but ideally at the moment, those accounts need to originate from Active Directory domain services, and then you need to be synced into Entra ID, right? So I'll probably cover the cloud-only way of doing it in a future video, but for now, we need to sync them from Active Directory. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually deploy this via Nerdio. So I'm at the Nerdio console and in the storage tab in Azure Files. So now we're going to go and create the storage account. Okay, so I'm going to click Add Azure Files. So it's asking me for a storage account name. Now these storage accounts need to be like individual storage accounts, right? So they can't be shared names across anything. So let's try and think of something which is entirely something which has never been used before. So let's maybe go for virtual, I don't know, Mac YouTube test. Okay, so that's the name of the storage account. And we are going to give it a description. So the description is storage account used for FSLogix profiles. We are going to select a resource group. So this will be the resource group that we're going to use for the storage account. So I'm going to do it. So we're going to select Nerdio YouTube. We're going to select a location, which is going to be UK South. So UK South. We're going to select my performance tier, which is premium. So I would always recommend using premium Azure Files for FSLogix. For really large environments, you want to be something looking at like Azure NetApp files. But for most scenarios, I recommend premium purely because you get that burst capability and it gives you the best performance. I've seen some deployments use standard Azure File Share, which is fine for smaller environments, but definitely for environments on the larger size, I definitely recommend premium as well. It also makes a difference as well because the billing is a bit different as well. So with Azure Files Standard, you pay for what you use, whereas Azure Files Premium, you pay for what you provision. Okay, so replication, we're just going to use LRS, but if you wanted to, you could use ZRS as well. So file share name, so I'm going to call this FSLogix YouTube. File share description, profiles for FSLogix profiles. Profiles for FSLogix doesn't make sense. Okay, provision capacity. So I'm going to set this to 100 gig, right? As I mentioned previously, you pay for what you create. Right, not what you consume, but what you create with Azure File Premium. So if I created like a terabyte file share, and if I didn't use any of that terabyte file share, I'm still paying for it, right? And so we can enable the auto scaling to basically increase the size of the profile as and when we need it. Okay, so what we're going to select now is the share level permissions, right? So this will create the share level permissions for you. So we're going to give it share contributor, so that'll basically allow the session host to access the share. Okay, and then we're going to lock it down even further with NTFS permissions, right? So this section here will basically assume the default permissions. So anyone who accessed that session host anyone who accessed that file share from a session host will by default get the SMB share contributor permissions. If you want to go a bit more locked down, we can define security groups and stuff, but it's up to your security team how you want to do this. Most people just configure the default share level permissions. Okay, so this is the key thing here as well. So we're going to join Entra ID, right? So we've got Entra ID, so we're going to do a join for that. Okay, so Nerdio will automatically join into Entra ID for us, and then we're also going to configure the assign NTFS file level permissions, right? So again, it's going to do that for us, and what's actually going to happen here is actually going to create a temporary VM for us. Okay, it will and then run a script on that VM, which will then configure the NTFS permissions using iCalculus. Okay, so automatic way of doing it. We don't need to do anything. If we weren't using Nerdio, we'd have to do all these steps manually. Okay, and we can see here in big red letters, be sure to grant admin consent after storage account is joined to Entra ID. Yeah, so I'm going to go through and do that process shortly as well. Okay, and we're also going to enable SMB multi-channel. Yeah, so that gives you a lot better performance. We can add tags in there if you wanted to. We don't have any, so we don't need to, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I think we've got everything that we need to here. So now I'm just going to click on the OK button. Premium file share quota must be between 100 and... Okay, don't know how that's happened, but there you go. Okay, and that is pretty much all we have to do, okay, to create the storage account and the file share. So this is going to go away now. It'll create all that for me, and then when we come back we just need to do the admin consent, and then we can build a session host, and then we can obviously test all this stuff and make sure that it's all working. Okay, I'll be back shortly. And we are back. So that process is actually completed now. So as you can see, we have a file share which is created. So it took just over 10 minutes. So let's actually have a look and see what's actually happened here. So it's created a storage account. Okay, so virtual Mac YouTube test. So that's what we've created. It's created a file share. Okay, so that's been done. It's linked to file share within Nerdio, so that's a Nerdio specific thing. But we've actually joined the storage account to Entra ID. Yeah. We've enabled Entra ID authentication on the storage account, and then we have looked at the NTFS permissions. So the NTFS permissions are currently set to users, authenticated users, modify, and then create owner. Okay. And then basically what's happened now is created a temporary virtual machine, and then it's using a script to run on that virtual machine to actually set the NTFS permissions for us. Okay, so we can see here, and then it's actually deleted that virtual machine. Okay, so now we should have a storage account, an Azure file share, and the NTFS permissions created for us. Okay, so next thing that we need to do is we actually need to configure the host pool for the permissions as well. So we also need to create a FSLogix profile configuration, right? So that's what we'll do next actually. Okay, so I'm going to go to settings within Nerdio. I'm going to go to Nerdio environment, I think it's under. No, it's not. Integration. So we've got FSLogix profile storage. So this is my default profile, which I'm going to use. So recent capability we added was the ability to select like certain versions of FSLogix. Okay, so I'm going to select Hotfix 4, for example. Right, but if I always wanted to use the most up-to-date version, I just use the latest stable release. Okay, so we're going to select this one. Now this is the important bit here. We need to tick the configure session hosts registry for FSLogix storage. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to select the FSLogix profile path. So this is this one here, and then it's automatically selected the configure session host for Entra ID Joined storage because it knows it's an Entra ID storage one, but you just need to make sure that that's ticked as well. Now we actually need to provide the admin consent for the storage account in Entra ID. So let's head over to our Azure portal. Portal.azure.com. Okay, and then we need to search for app registrations. App registrations. Go to all applications, and we'll see the storage account. So here you can see virtual Mac YouTube test. So that's the one that we created. So we just need to go and click onto that. Okay. And then we go to manage, and then we go to API permissions, right? So you'll see here admin consent request sort of required. It says no, but we do need to do that, right? So I'm going to click on that grant admin consent for virtual Mac. We're going to click yes. Okay, so you can see now that's got a green tick next to it saying granted for virtual Mac. Okay, so that's all that we have to do to grant me admin consent. Okay, so that's completed now. So again, let's go and have a look at what's actually happened here. So I've updated the FSLogix agents on all the session hosts and applied the config settings, right? So basically we told it to install FSLogix, so that's gone and installed the very latest version of FSLogix. It's enabled the Entra ID Joined functionality onto the session host, so that'll enable us to authenticate, and then it would have applied all the configuration settings for that host pool as well, right? So saves us having to rebuild the session host to apply the settings. So now we can actually go on and test this, right? So I've powered the host online. So this is the existing session host that I had, which is also joined to Entra ID, right? And what we can also do as well, we can also just go and check on that storage account within the Azure portal. So if I go to click on storage accounts, and then if I click on virtual Mac YouTube test, so you can see this here is the storage account, and then we'll see here we can see identity based access, that's set to configured, right? So if I click on that, and then if I click on the FSLogix YouTube, so this is the actual file share that we've enabled it for, so click on that, and here you can see that everything is looking okay. Everything's looking happy. So let's go back and check whether this is actually working or not. So let's now go and check that this is working, right? So I'm going to launch my remote desktop client, and then we're going to log on to the session host and just make sure that everything is looking good. So I'm going to launch my client. You can see at the bottom here we've got testing for YouTube, so I'm just going to click on that, and that should prompt me for my credentials. So I'm just going to log on here. Okay, that's going to launch the desktop. So you can see there we've got please wait for FSLogix apps and services. Okay, and that's logging me onto the desktop. So let's see whether it's actually using a profile or not, FSLogix profile. So the test that I normally do, first of all, is just to look at the disk management to see if it's actually attached to disk or not. So if I go to CMD, launch that, launch MMC, okay, file, remove snapping, go to computer management, finish, or disk management as well even, finish, okay. So go to disk management. And then what we should see is this disk here, right? So the default disk size is like 30 gigs. So that's how I always know that this is going to be an FSLogix profile. And you can also see here it's same profile WVD admin, right? So that's my user that I'm testing with. So everything's looking good there. The next place that I always look in to make sure that that is working is to look at something called FRX tray. So FRX tray is a utility which you can use to troubleshoot stuff with FSLogix. So if I just browse to see program files, no, we want that. So see, it's easy, program files, and then we go to the FSLogix directory, go to apps, and then look for FRX tray. Okay. So if I just double click that, you'll think that's nothing's happened, but if you go to this screen down here, you'll see it says FSLogix profile active, right? So if I just open that up, and what you're looking for is this green tick here, right? So if something's wrong, this will be either red or amber, but what we're seeing here is active. So that means the profile that I'm logged onto at the moment is actually using a FSLogix profile. Okay, and it's showing me what the total space is, it's showing me the remaining space and the size on the disk, right? Because this basically also grows, right? And we'll look at that in a second. But what's quite useful as well, if you go to advanced view, you can look like logs and stuff. So I can go in here, if I'm troubleshooting why something's not working, I can just go into here and have a quick look and see, okay, what's going on, what's the error messages, that kind of thing. So very useful troubleshooting step. For some reason, people don't look in here. But when I'm troubleshooting an issue, this is the first place that I'm going to look to see what the logs are actually telling me. Okay, So let's actually now have a look and see on the actual share and see what's actually happening here. So this is just a quick shortcut that I've done. So as you can see here, now my profile path is pointing to the storage account that we created earlier, and then also the file share name, right? So within here, I have the directory, and that's containing the actual folder path. Okay, so this is a default naming convention, so you'll get the SID of the user account, and then the actual username. You can actually change those around if you wanted to as well. So you can have like WVD admin and then the SID if you wanted to. But let's have a quick look in here. So you can see this folder was only created this morning, just so I'm not trying to fool you guys. So I can look into here, and then here is my profile. Right, so this is a VHD image or VHDX, and that's actually what my profile is redirecting to. Okay, so I'm not actually writing into C users, I'm actually writing into this VHD file, and that's how we redirect the user's profile using FSLogix. So you can see here, I've got the image file. You can see last updated modified at 9:09 AM. If we just look at the properties of that, you'll see the size on the disk is 228 megabytes, right? Because that's all I'm using. So it's not used 30 gigs, it's only used 228 megabytes. Okay, so that's basically the minimum profile size that you can see, but on average, depends on what data you put in there, you may see like 5, 10, 20 gigs or whatever. Okay, so as you can see here, everything is working successfully. This was extremely simple to implement. A few clicks, took literally half an hour's worth of work. Most of that was Nerdio doing its stuff in the background. So extremely simple process to go through. Just makes setting all this up a breeze. I've worked with many accounts, and a lot of people struggle going through all the manual steps, and something always gets missed or something. So this is ridiculously simple to get up and running. So I hope you found this video useful. I'll be returning next week with another video, or maybe during the week if I get more time. But if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments, and please also like and subscribe to my video, because the more subscribers I can get, the more it kind of motivates me, and it really helps grow the channel. So please subscribe, and you'll also get like notifications of when I upload new videos, which is on a weekly basis. Okay, have a good week. Hopefully see you guys next week, and goodbye.